Do you remember Michael from before? He feels embittered. He feels angry. And why is that? That is because he has absolutely no formal influence on the system he's in the most. While he's in school, only the management decides about stuff relevant almost only to him, while he has nothing to say about the final decisions. We claim that this situation cannot go on for two main reasons. The first one is that this situation makes students feel embittered and angry because they feel helpless while making decisions that affect them the most. This embitterment lowers the student's motivation to learn and therefore creates less efficient studying. The second problem is that the management can never fully understand the students' learning needs while they, of course, know themselves the best. We offer a solution that goes like that. This house will divide the decision-making power in a way that 50% of the power of the influence will be spread equally and individually between the students, and the other 50% will be spread the same way between the board members. To clarify, let's say there is a vote on whether to cancel a certain lesson. The students may vote however they want, and the board can vote however they want. We will normalize the numbers so that the votes of the two parties will be equal in strength. If, for instance, there are 20 school directors and 10 students, each vote of a student will count as 2. If all students and all board members will vote in one way, there will be a tie, and then we expect negotiation to take place and a compromise to be achieved. It is very important to note that in this debate we are only discussing decisions that are under the control of the school management in the status quo. Students will have a vote about when do we learn math, but will have nothing to say about whether or not are we going to learn math. This solution will take place in middle and high schools. I will present a point that says that students can and should make this kind of decision, and the second speaker is going to tell you why is the current situation unjustified and how are we hurting ourselves but not putting our solution. Okay. Students of this age are capable of making such decisions for two main reasons. The first one is that students this age are already old enough to know themselves and know how do they study in the most efficient way. A 12-year-old student will surely know if he learns better in the first two periods or the last. He knows if a teacher is bad and he isn't teaching him or he is, and so on. A student that can't decide on such decisions will feel embittered because they can take away his favorite enrichment class without asking him, or stuck him with a teacher that never teaches him anything. This embitterment, as said, lowers the student's motivation. Furthermore, they are capable of making such decisions because they are, once again, rational. They move to middle school because they are rational this age, and the movement itself makes them know that they can make such decisions. Yes.
So you're actually saying that there is no actual problem that maybe a student will not choose sentimentally, and he might make he'll never make a mistake and choose wrong.
I'm saying that one student can make a mistake, but the majority knows themselves and they are not likely to make such mistakes. We also say they should make this kind of decisions because these students know themselves, as said, the best way. If, I don't know, 90% of the students say that a certain teacher is bad for them and isn't teaching, they are not likely to be wrong. And if they are wrong and unfair, the board members will stop them. even if you aside the feelings area, you can say that, as said, the students know themselves the best way and will most likely make the right decisions. Thank you very much.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, hello. Honorable judges, old friends from Aהל-שם. Actually, today's debate, without offending to the ones who came up with it, is out of date because many years ago, schools were completely different than what they are now. The students really did not have a say, people did not have an influence on what was going on, and thus democratic school came up. But schools have come a long way since then, and students are treated differently, and they do have a say in the status quo. They do have influence, not officially equal power, but they do have an influence and power, and I will expand it later on. And the schools today took many of the positive ideas and things from the democratic schools, and now today the situation is completely different. First of all, I would like to rebut the government's points, and I would like to let them know that we are listening to their points. The status quo, they said that students do not have a say, they do not have an influence, but they do. And I will elaborate on that when I will get to my point, which is the status quo right now, that should not be changed. And you also said that they can't change anything, but they do. They can change. They can make changes occur because they're represented by counselors, by counselors in the school, and they can express themselves and their opinions. And we also said about that they can choose whether or not to study a certain subject and many other options that they will have. And again, I will expand on my point, but I would like to give an example that in our school, in Bליך, where 25% of the subjects are chosen by parents, and we don't have equal power to the management, but our parents, of course, represents us, and so we do have a say, and we do affect the decisions made. One other thing they mentioned is that it will hurt their motivation to learn. But no, thank you. It will hurt their motivation to learn, but it will actually be the other way around, because their motivation will be hurt if they will have equal power, because the whole power balance in the school will be hurt if they have if they have the same power or even more power from their teacher. So why would they listen to him? Our second speaker will explain that. Yes, please.
Why is it okay? Why is the situation where the board's member words are the less words and the most powerful ones?
What did you say?
Why is it okay that the final decisions is in the board's hand?
It's okay that it's in their hands because they are making more. They're adults. They're expected to make rational calculations, unlike the students. Their opinions and their say are taken into account, but by people who know better than them what are the consequences of what they're doing. And now I should proceed to my 2 points. First of all, the status quo. The children today do have representation. They do have a say and an influence. If a majority of students, even today, they don't need to have officially equal power. If a majority of them complains about a teacher, so probably something is really wrong, and this teacher will be fired. There were many incidents that happened in my school, in other schools, and they do have a say. And they do affect decisions made, and therefore the status quo should not be changed because we will suffer the consequences, which we will explain right now, later on. My second point is the message for the real life. The life is not a utopian world like a school where you have equal power to your management. You don't get to choose what you want to do, when you want to do it, and with who you want to do it. There are bad people in the world, bad things that happen, and you can't. And the privilege of choice doesn't always exist. Most of the time, it doesn't exist, and you don't get to vote whatever you don't like. Let me give a democratic school, for example, to a school that works in a similar way to what the governments want to create. Fact is that only a minority of the society actually succeeds there, both in studies and both in society. And you want to force the whole society to work in a similar framework, which will harm them later on. And to conclude our point, the status quo does allow them to have a say and influence, and we will ruin the preparation for the real life if we give them equal power, because they will not be ready for the army, university work, and even a social life, and it will make it hard for them in the future. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, do you know why is Michael angry? Michael is angry because unlike what the opposition thinks, he is smart. He knows that the hurting of his freedom of choice is immoral. And I'm going to show you that in my two arguments. The first one, why is the current situation? In the current situation, there is an immoral damage to the freedom of choice, which will eventually hurt the studies. And two, how the fact that schools is not adapted to the students hurt both students and the country. But first, let me start with a short rebuttal. The head of the opposition said, students do have influence. Now, he said he will elaborate in his speech, in his arguments. We never had any explanation about it. But even if we would have heard an explanation about it, they don't have enough. They need to have an equal power to the teachers, like the Prime Minister showed you, because these rules are about them. They will be the ones that will have to follow them, and therefore they must have an equal power to the power that the teachers have. He also said that they won't listen to the teachers if they have an equal power. And again, we never heard why is that true, but why if someone has an equal power to somebody else, he won't listen to them. If someone has more power than you, you're afraid to talk to them, you're afraid to say your opinion and to tell him what you think. But if you're equal, you can negotiate with them, you can tell him what you think when you know your opinion will be appreciated. Yes? One of you.
You're willing to give the students more power than their teachers, so why would their teachers communicate with them and teach them right as they should?
First of all, no, we won't. We will giving them an equal power, like the motion says. Not more than the teachers, an equal power. Now, no, thank you. I'm in the middle of a rebuttal. And the fact that they have equal power, of course the teachers should talk to the students. They are their teachers. They are there to educate them. They are there to tell them their opinion because they are more experienced. And to my arguments. My first argument, as we all agree, in the current situation, we are hurting the pupils' freedom of choice by not letting them take any part in decisions that are relevant for their life. The question is, in this debate, why is this hurting moral? Well, there are two situations where damage to the freedom of choice is moral. The first situation is when the person would hurt somebody else, can hurt somebody else in this choice of him. That is absolutely not the case we're talking about. On the contrary, we're giving pupils. On the contrary, we're giving pupils the opportunity to decide for themselves. When only the management decides for the pupils, without even asking them, the chances that the decision would harm the pupils are much higher because they're being made out without considering the opinions of those that will actually have to follow these rules. The second situation is when the person would hurt himself. In this case, the damage is moral if one of these two situations will happen. A, if he's not aware of the consequences of his action, and B, if he is not thinking rationally, like if he's drunk or on drugs. Now, A, if he's not aware of the consequences, this is not the case, because students in this age are aware of the consequences in this kind of decisions for three reasons. One, in these kind of decisions, maybe they're not aware of the Israeli-Arab conflict, so they can't vote in the country's electors. But in these specific votes, they are aware of which teacher teaches them better, or what course will they be taking. And two, in this age, the students are already getting ready for Bagrut exams, and they take the studies more seriously, so they will consider the consequences and think twice before voting. And three, even if they won't do all of that, before voting on a rule, the management will explain the effects of this rule on the pupils. And B, if it's not thinking rationally, in these ages, the main cause for pupils to think irrationally is social pressure, and which will be prevented by making these elections secret. They will be voting secretly, and nobody will know eventually what they voted. According to these reasons, the damage caused by the pupil's freedom choice is immoral and unnecessary, so it can be completely solved by our solution. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, members of the government. I'm here to prove the absurdity of why students should have equal power to the one of the school management. But before I begin, I would like to rebut some of the government's points. First of all, that you said something about giving the equal rights. It will create impasse. And yes, teachers and school faculty know what it's precisely the faculty knows what's good. And that is precisely why we're against giving the students who might not have the idea of what's good and bad the choice. You also said that the faculty might make some decisions that have a high risk in hurting pupils. The faculty specializes in these things. I don't understand how there's a high risk if they know what they're doing, if they get money for helping the children. That doesn't make very much sense to me. And also what Tom said, just because she likes to think rationally and she focuses and she learns for her bagrut, doesn't mean that every single child knows what he wants. Most children actually, or pupils, are short-sighted. Maybe if you ask most of the children if you would rather begin learning at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., obviously you're going to say, yeah, 9 a.m. so I can have some more sleep. But then you can say, yeah, but you're going to finish 1 hour later. You might learn until 4 p.m. So, yes, that. Now I shall proceed to my first point, the level of maturity, which is actually one of the biggest points here. The pupils that are not as mature and grown up are going to make such vital decisions that in the end of the day might actually hurt them. Let's say, for example, a kid that's 14 years old might be sent to the principal's office for talking, or maybe he wasn't even talking, but he's going to be sent to the principal's office. He's going to get upset. He's going to go, oh, I hate my teacher. I'm going to get him fired. And then he tells his other friends, yeah, he was so mean to me. And so everybody gets upset, decides to fire him. What if this teacher was actually good? What if he actually taught something? In regular schools, if there's a teacher that a lot of people complain about and actually something is wrong with him, the first day that you're going to go to the faculty and come with a no thank you, and come with a group of large people and say, yes, we have a problem with him. The first day, he's going to get fired. He's going to get taken care of. If every teacher does a little thing to every little student, there will be no teachers at all. Article. Yes.
Are you saying that 100% of the students will decide to fire the teachers because one student said he's hungry?
You don't think that's possible? I can get really upset at one teacher, decide that I hate him, and that he's gonna get fired. Doesn't matter if we have the equal amount of rights that the faculty does, then I can get him fired as easily as I want to. Thank you. And my next point, Article 29 states that we have a moral responsibility to prepare the child for responsible, dignified life. Meaning, we cannot choose every little thing that bothers us. We can go we can go immediately to the principals, go, okay, I don't like him, let's get him fired, he'll get him fired. Life doesn't work that way. If we really want to achieve something, we have to work hard, grab a group of people, and that's actually how it's done. That leads to my second point, which gives you a different perspective. Giving more power to the students means giving less power to the teachers. It is not our job to manage a school. That is why we have professionals, like I said, that take care of us, know what's best. Teachers know what is best and what we need to learn. But he needs the power to control his pupils. Giving the students and the school faculty, no thank you, equal power. One, teachers will be afraid of the students. And two, when students and faculty did not come to a conclusion, it will cause a problem. And because there's equal power, nothing will happen. In conclusion, one, students are not actually mature enough to hold a person's life in his hands. Two, second, life does not actually work in a way that they can change every little thing that bothers them. Third, strict teaching, where teachers are in charge of their students, will get so much farther than teachers that are afraid of their students. And finally, it is not our job to make the big school decisions. That's why there are people who specifically professionalize in the educational area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Some of this debate for the government.
Once again.
I would like to call Yoni.
The opposition has agreed with us that the management is responsible. What they didn't agree about is that pupils are responsible enough to make those decisions. But I remind the opposition that probably slept while my friend Omer was reading our definition that we are only talking about school individual decisions. What does that mean? It means that a student can't really hurt his studies by these decisions. He can't decide whether to learn math. He can't decide if he wants to learn, like they said, from 9 to 4 instead of from 8 to 3. Now, the opposition has said that this is a very big damage, but I do not understand what is the very big damage of me learning from 8 to 3 or from 9 to 4. Now, the opposition has told us that there is no problem since there exist democratic schools in which the situation is this way, and they do not succeed. Now the opposition, which I have already said slept while we read our definition, didn't see the difference. In a democratic school, pupils can leave the class whenever they want. In our school, they won't leave. They won't be able. The only difference we are suggesting is that once comes a decision, such as which enrichment class to take, is it debate or social psychology, or what hour should they learn math, first or second, we know that the students will be able to choose those decisions. Now, I ask you, who knows better what I interest in? Me or the management? I know I like debate more. One second. I like debate more than social psychology. So why should the management choose what I should learn as my enrichment? Yes.
So you're actually saying that the faculty does not know what they're doing. That you're saying that the students know what's best.
Now, the faculty does know what it's doing. I say that the faculty knows what it's doing, but so do the students. There's no reason to assume that the students know worse than the faculty what they're interested in, which teacher teaches them good and they understand the material, and when do they learn more effectively. Now I remind you that children of the age of 7th grade to 12th grades already have great interest in what their grades are. So it stands to reason that if there's a very good teacher that one time failed the student, he won't throw him away because it will affect his bagrut, because it will affect his studies. Now, a child of this age knows that someone who has got a bad bagrut, got a bad job, and got a not nice life. And this, most students want a nice life. I hope you do too. So most students won't fire a teacher in the passion of the moment. Now the second point, second point. Now the point is that school is a service given by the state to the students. And the point of the service, what the state wants to achieve is in this case not money, but for the students to take this service in the most efficient way. Now, a service that is not adapted to who takes it is bad by definition. But apart from this, a service that isn't adapted from the students this way will teach them what's less good for them. What do I mean? I mean, for example, if Yoni Kehn-Iddov the management would have chosen that he should learn social psychology, then he wouldn't be the world champion. But if he would have had the choice, he could dictate what he would learn, and there would be much more cases of people who get to learn what they like to learn. Now, there are two clashes in this debate. The first one is the children's nationality. As Omer proved to you, and as I explained again, these choices of what do the children prefer are perfectly inside their area of informedness, and children perfectly know what is best for them in these cases. The second one is motivation. Now, I do not understand the argument of the opposition since they said teachers have equal power, we won't listen. But if children will have power, they will like the school and they will want to learn. Thank you.
Thank you for that very dramatic speech. Now let's move on to what really happens. So, I personally don't feel at all embittered by my school because I know that I have a voice and that if I have any complaints, I can go to my homeroom teacher, or my advisor, or the student council. And the opposition seems to be forgetting that almost every school already has a student council where the students pick who they want to represent themselves in the eyes of the administration. And the student council has power. Students already have power. And the homeroom teacher has to listen to what the kids have to say and to pass that on to the administration. And students wouldn't do as well in school if they had equal power to the teacher. Or if they liked school a bit more. Let's give an example of the last few weeks. And we've been watching movies for the past couple of days because it's the end of school. Now, instead of enjoying school and appreciating the teacher, like the opposition thinks will happen if we enjoy school more, all of the kids say that the teachers are bad and that we should all stay home because we're watching movies all the time. Because the kids are irrational and they don't understand what's good for them, and they don't understand that it's not okay to stay home from school. And as I said, kids are irrational and their frontal lobe isn't developed yet. So they're not biologically capable of making completely rational decisions. Maybe that'd be okay in an ideal world, but we're not living in an ideal world, and students are irrational and irresponsible, and they only care about what happens tomorrow, not what happens 20 years from now if they have a nice car or not. And teachers have, as the proposition said, a lot more experience. So students might know what themselves want, but they don't know what's best for them because they're not biologically developed enough to do that yet. And the teachers who have been taught what kids need to involve the kids, but they need to have the final power because the kids don't know enough. And the secret voting wouldn't get rid of peer pressure because peer pressure isn't dragging someone's hand and forcing them to vote on something. It's actually it's mentally influencing them and making them think that this is the best option. No, thank you. And in our school, at least, the management doesn't choose the enrichment options. The kids choose the enrichment options. And the things that the government says kids should have influence over, many times already have influence over. And kids can fire teachers if these teachers are bad. And the fact that they don't have a formal way to do that doesn't make it any less related. For example, in our school, a teacher is being fired now because the students complained about him so much, and this happened without even the involvement of the student council. Yes.
Do you understand that if a choice is inherently bad, then all the management will vote against, and then it is enough for one student to vote against for the choice to fall?
Yes, but they won't do that because of peer pressure and because they want to fit in with their peers, and that one student would become an outcast, so he simply would not vote against it. And also, it would also only take one person from the management to vote for it, and if neither side budges, then it will create an impasse that only wastes school time and it leads to wasting efficiency. And this proposition would change learning because how much you teach does change because what the teacher teaches does change how much you learn for the bagut. Now, if you only choose a teacher that you like, because you know that he'll show movies all the time, then that's what you'll get, and you won't know anything for the bagut. And kids will do that because they are only thinking in the moment because of the biological difficulties. And so to summarize our points, our first point was that the children are too immature to actually. Our first point was that the status quo is to let kids have power, and many kids have power in school now. That wasn't different 20 years ago when this might have been relevant, but kids already have power, and representatives, and the advisors, and the homeroom teachers. And in real life, in the army, students don't have the option to vote on what they want is good or not. Jobs are undemocratic. When you go to the workplace, your boss won't ask you what you think is best, and then, depending on that, change what they like. If you ask for that, he'd fire you. And it would also upset the balance between students and teachers, because if students think that they can negotiate with the teacher on whatever they want, then they won't do homework because they think they can negotiate their way out of it, and they won't do anything that they don't want to do because they think they'd be able to simply talk to the teacher. And teachers need to have more responsibility because they know what is best for the child, because they're a lot more experienced and a lot older and fully biologically developed. And our third point was that these students would. Okay, so to conclude, we think that students shouldn't be able to have completely equal power to the teachers. Thank you.
חבר'ה, עוד סבב מחיאות כפיים, באמת מגיע להם, הם עשו עבודה באמת מדהימה, באמת מדהימה. כל הכבוד למורות ולתלמידים בבית הספר אהל-שם רמת-גן. כל הכבוד!